Okay, thank you for joining us today at Northwest Chamber. We do a series every month of webinar presenters. We have many members that have a lot of expertise in different things. And luckily today we have Dr. Travis Punai, who is with Curaleaf, and we're very happy to have him. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of people just don't understand what's happening with cannabis and what's happening with dispensaries. So we're really happy that you're here. So Dr. Travis, it is all yours. If you'd like to share your screen and you can get started. And Dr. Travis is the medical, not director. What was the term you used?
A clinical director.
Clinical director for Curaleaf. And so we're very happy to have him today. So if you want to share your screen, we can get started.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Kathleen. All right. Are you able to see me there?
Yep, got you.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for the introduction, Kathleen. Hello, everyone. So just as mentioned, my name is Dr. Travis Punai. I am the clinical director with the Curaleaf Cannabis Dispensaries here in Maryland. And I wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit today about our stores and, some of the products and services we offer, kind of introduce you to those who are unfamiliar, what the experience of visiting a dispensary here in Maryland is like, and hopefully clarify some of the recent changes that have been happening here in the state. So before I begin, I just want to get a few disclaimers out of the way. I want everyone to keep in mind that while we do have a cannabis program here in Maryland, on a federal level, cannabis is still considered an illegal substance. So what that means is that anything that we are going to talk about today pertains to the state of Maryland only. As it stands, these programs are state by state. So, it's very important that folks just remember information that you hear regarding cannabis pertains to the state that you're in, and it is not permissible to, consume cannabis or bring cannabis across state lines. That also being said, that while I am one of the doctors that does work for the company, I am qualified to speak about medical conditions with our patients and give recommendations for cannabis. But it's really important to remember that, we don't have federal clinical trials for cannabis. So, we're actually providing advice based on a compilation of patient reports. So we can see patterns within this industry and make recommendations based on those patterns. So yeah, before I begin, a few patients or a few groups of folks that we generally would not recommend cannabis for obvious reasons are our pregnant and breastfeeding folks. There is obviously no safe amount of cannabis that's been determined that we'd recommend to anyone during either of these situations. Children and cannabis for the same reasons, as well as pets. Some folks out there, I'm sure they've seen CBD products and things like that at the local PetSmart. But, generally within this industry, we'd still say for the time being, until we know otherwise, just avoid giving these things to our furry friends. So just to give you a little bit of a background of our program here in Maryland, our medical program now is a few years old. It was initially approved back in 2014. Dispensaries officially opened doors in December of 2017. Curaleaf has been in the state since then. There are a number of qualifying conditions, 9 qualifying conditions for those who are medical card holders or that want to seek a card holder. I'll provide my information at the end of this webinar for those that are interested in maybe pursuing that or going down that process and would like me to verify or answer questions regarding obtaining a medical card. But as of July 1st this year, there were permissions to allow for adult use cannabis within the state. And so what this means is that adults over the age of 21 are able to purchase cannabis products here in Maryland. And there was also changes in the laws allowing for provisions for growing cannabis. Those who are medical card holders are now able to grow 4 plants per household. Adult use consumers are allowed to have 2 plants per household. Keep in mind, one of the things we say in cannabis is private spaces, never public places. So, if you are going to cultivate cannabis, make sure it is in a secure private location. If you're going to consume cannabis, keep in mind that it cannot be done in public spaces, that obviously it should be done in the privacy of your home. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, we do have a number of locations across the state. Closest to the Northwest region would be our Reisterstown location. But of course, we have others. We do have locations in Columbia, Montgomery Village, and Frederick. Some of you might recognize our building there off of Reisterstown Road. So what do we offer at our dispensaries? If you were ever to visit any of our locations, you would see that we offer a wide variety of products. We here at Curaleaf like to pride ourselves on being able to take care of any type of consumer, whether that is our medical consumer or our adult use consumer. Those that might be experienced cannabis consumers or those that are just cannabis curious. We have, a well-knowledgeable staff that can sort of guide you through the process and explain things to you very thoroughly. So we're very confident in our abilities to walk you through this process. So for our adult use consumers, there is now available for purchase flour, edibles in the forms of gummies, chocolates, etc. We do have vape cartridges and topicals such as creams and balms. For our medical patients, we offer the same things that are available to adult use consumers, but obviously their options are expanded in terms of being able to buy higher concentration products and sometimes larger quantities, that kind of thing, depending on their needs. So, of course, our dispensaries, as mentioned, do have someone like myself on staff, a healthcare practitioner. We do offer free consultations for those trying to utilize cannabis for therapeutic purposes, as well as those that are using cannabis for adult consumption. We can offer those free consultations to you. And of course, as mentioned, we have a very knowledgeable staff that can speak towards our products. Also, if you were to ever come into a Curaleaf and you find yourself shopping with us, if you just simply provide an email, we do have an excellent point system that allows you to just earn free cash just for shopping with us. So to kind of walk you through a little bit of the new laws here in terms of the adult use limitations, there is currently a daily purchase limit that's pretty lenient. Adult use consumers are allowed to, in a single day or in a single purchase, buy a maximum of 1.5 ounces of cannabis flower, up to 12 grams of vape cartridges, or the equivalent of up to 750 milligrams of edible products. That can be, for most folks, that's quite a sufficient amount. It's about seven packages or something like that, which could last most people quite a while. And then for our medical card holders, they are obviously allowed to purchase based on the recommendations of their practitioner. Now, keep in mind that if you are going to come visit our dispensaries, I'd want you to bring along an ID verifying that you're 21 and over. We have staff that will meet you right at our doors. They will scan your IDs and they will walk you onto our floor. Once you're on our floor, we have a number of kiosks available that have our entire menu on there. As mentioned, we will have staff members there to answer any of your questions. You simply place an order, some kind of like an online portal, onto one of the kiosks and enter your name in there. And it's pretty much from the moment you hit that submit button, somebody's starting to pull your order in the back. So by the time you get into one of our lines and head up to the front, someone will be there with your order ready to go. Usually we can get folks in and out of the dispensary within about 15 to 20 minutes tops. Keep in mind that currently only cash and debit transactions are acceptable within the dispensary. We currently cannot accept credit. There are ATMs on site for those of you that may need to utilize our ATMs. So just a couple tips for those of you who are unfamiliar with cannabis. If you are going to, step into the world of cannabis and you're interested in trying new products, I've kind of outlined a little bit about how these products work and, pretty much a safe place to start if you are cannabis curious or cannabis naive. Um, so for those that are flower consumers, they would realize that the onset is pretty much immediate. As soon as someone decides to use flower through the inhalation route, they're gonna see the results within a few minutes. And it generally lasts somewhere along the lines of 1 to 3 hours. If you have very, very sensitive folks, those effects may last a little longer, and is generally recommended to start with low potency flower, something with a THC concentration. For those that are not familiar with THC would be the compound that's responsible for all of those psychoactive effects, or the effects that we associate with cannabis, the sort of euphoria that folks will get, or the pain relieving aspects for some of our medical folks. So I would generally recommend a new consumer start with a product that's pretty low potency, something under 25% THC, and of course, single inhalations until you know what your tolerance may look like. With vapes, it's very similar. Of course, there's no combustion, so there's no lighting anything. Some folks like this option. There's none of the scent associated with cannabis. I know some folks do have a little bit of, an aversion to the scent of cannabis. Vapes will help eliminate that. They do follow a very similar onset pattern with an instant effect lasting somewhere along the lines of 1 to 3 hours. And I would generally recommend the same thing. Start with a lower potency product. In vapes, it's a little bit more concentrated, somewhere between 60 and 90% THC. So I'd recommend very, very small sips and allow sufficient time to feel the effect and assess your tolerance before introducing additional doses. As for the oral products, we do have two different classes of oral products: edibles, which are like gummies and brownies and things like that. We have those available for patients. One of the things I like to point out is that if anybody is going to pursue this route, it is very important that they know it takes a really long time for these products to take effect. It could take up to 2 hours to feel the effects from an edible or an oral product. So, always start low and be very, very patient. Usually it's recommended to start with doses, if you've never touched cannabis before, of 2.5 milligrams or less. That should not feel very overwhelming. Some folks might even say that's a little mild, but I still think, it's a very cautious and good place to start. Keep in mind that the effects to edible consumption cannabis can last quite a while. They can last anywhere between 6 to 12 hours, depending on the sensitivity of the patient. We have quite a few folks that will seek cannabis for, sleep or insomnia because of the drowsiness that they experience, and they love those for the nighttime just because of that long duration. As for our topical products, as mentioned earlier, we do have a variety of topicals, creams, balms, etc. Balms in general, usually folks would say they probably have an onset somewhere around 45 minutes after the application, with a duration of 1 to 4 hours. When it comes to the topical forms of cannabis, it's important to note that these are an excellent non-impairing option. It does not enter systemic circulation. Patients usually will not feel impaired. So this is great for folks that, my athletic patients, my patients suffering from pain, or it's just some folks that want to take that edge off after like a workout or something like that. So that's a little bit about how we do things here at Curaleaf. I'd encourage anybody that's just cannabis, even if you're just cannabis curious, to stop by the dispensary, see how we do things. My information is here on the slide available. If anybody is interested in reaching out to me for a consult or anything like that, feel free to reach out, email or phone, either one works. And then I have our address to our closest location there, and I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any questions they'd like me to address.
We actually do. We have a few questions have come in. Could you explain the process of I drive up to Curaleaf, I open the door of the dispensary, and what do I expect? Like, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Like, can you kind of walk us through the process of walking into a dispensary?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have so you'll notice if you walk to the store, there's going to be a little vestibule. In that vestibule is, just like anywhere, a little lobby. You'll walk in, one of our staff members will meet you right at the door. We're going to ask for your ID. If you're a medical card patient, we'll ask you to have your medical card with you. And we simply just scan that ID to verify that you are over the age of 21. Once you're over the age of 21, you're able to enter our sales floor. As mentioned, the sales floor has kiosks on there. We have a number of staff members roaming around on the floor available for questions. We have product displays, that kind of thing. It's a fairly simple process. It's a really relaxed environment, as you can probably imagine. Like I mentioned, we have very, very knowledgeable staff. So it's usually any question a patient can have, one of our staff members can answer that for you.
So if we come in and we just know we have pain,
Mhm.
and we just want some relief for that. So we'll just kind of walk up and you guys will help us figure out what's best for our ailment, or how does that work?
Good question. For folks that might be adult use consumers, a little bit cannabis curious and just saying, hey, I'd like to, just kind of dip my toes in the water and try something mild. Our floor staff can absolutely point out products like that. If you're maybe a little bit more experienced, I'm sure they can talk in depth about, any one of the various products. For those folks that might be looking for something a little bit more medically centered, I would encourage you to reach out to me or to ask one of those staff members, hey, I'd like to sit down and get a consult. And I would usually come out if I'm on site. If not, I'll set up a time and we'll sit down and kind of walk through the entire process, what the patient is trying to experience, what ails them. Just as mentioned, I have folks for pain, I have folks for sleep, that sort of thing, and the indications, may require a different product. And I'll sit there and assess your situation. We'll start really slow and develop a plan and recommend a few products to you.
Perfect. One of the questions actually kind of ties into that. Do medical card holders tend to receive more assistance and recommendations than recreational users?
We offer all services to any one of our patients. So there really isn't a difference in the way we treat our two patient pools, whether they're adult use or medical. As mentioned, if you are a medical patient and you did want that in-depth consultation, I would recommend you reach out to me directly. But if you are at the dispensary, I'm sure they can talk you into it, talk you through our menu. But drug interaction checks, some medical conditions can be a little bit more complicated. So I'd say that we offer those services to both patient pools. I wouldn't say that we prioritize one over the other, except for the fact that we do have a separate line for our medical patients, so they won't have to wait in extended lines. Should we have a longer line, we prioritize ringing up and helping those patients. Yes.
Okay, so other than not having to stand in a long line, what are some other differences between having a medical card and not?
Great question. So for those that are medical card holders, being that cannabis for them is a medical expense, there is no tax on those products. The baseline prices are slightly lower for medical patients, and they do have expanded access to our menu. So as I mentioned earlier regarding those daily purchase limits, there are also caps in strength. So some of the high dose or more concentrated products will only be available to medical card holders. So for those that are just brand new to cannabis and, just looking to try something, a medical card probably wouldn't, be a necessity. But for those folks that probably depend on cannabis or at least utilize it with some regularity, there would be a difference in cost and availability of products. Yes.
Does Curaleaf offer an option to help somebody get a medical card?
Absolutely. So what we do is, the best way to do that, because you would want to bring along, there is some paperwork that we'll ask you to bring along with you just to verify that you're a state resident and you're seeking your medical card. Reach out to me via email or through my number, and we can always set up a time and walk you through that process, help you get your medical card. Our floor staff can always walk you through that process as well. But for those that maybe need a little assistance on the tech side, I'll literally, you know, work with the patient to help them get through that process.
Perfect. Another question that came in are what are your thoughts on the use of cannabis to combat the disease of alcoholism? They said, especially since there's really no proven studies showing that there's been no deaths reported from overdose or withdrawals from THC.
That's a really good question. I could go really in depth on that for hours. What I would say is yes, there are advantages for folks that may want to use something recreationally and may want to reduce or even cease consumption of alcohol. I would say, that question is a little layered in the sense that, you know, alcohol dependency is a very hard thing for a lot of people. But there have been folks, we have a number of success stories here at the dispensary where we've heard, patients will say, hey, I prefer to utilize cannabis over alcohol. It's allowed them to decrease their consumption. If you are suffering from a more severe dependency on alcohol, I'd say it's not as simple as just going over to cannabis. Obviously, dependency issues can be very complicated, and you want to seek help in the right avenues.
Okay. All right, great. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a couple shout outs. Somebody said shout out to the Reisterstown staff. They're always so friendly and helpful. And another person said that they met you at our Northwest Chambers Crab Feast in July, and they wanted to thank you for doing this today. So you got some shout outs, Dr. Travis.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I
Yes.
look forward to meeting more of the chamber members at future meetings.
Yes, well, we would love to have you. Those are the questions that came in. And if there's anything else you'd like to close with, I guess we can wrap it up.
Just a big thank you to the chamber. Thank you for having us today, allowing, myself as well as the company to represent ourselves here. And for those of you who may just be a little bit curious about how it works at a dispensary, or if you've been intimidated, I know that this industry is really new to a lot of people. Don't feel that way. We've made miles and miles of progress over the last few years. So come by, check us out. Feel free to just stop by and say hello and check out our staff. As one of your members mentioned, our staff, the community loves them. So come by and meet us.
Great. Well, we will definitely do that. And if you have any further questions for Dr. Travis, please, his phone number's right there, his email's right there. Please send him a message and go check out Curaleaf in Reisterstown. And please come back next month for our next webinar. We have them every Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month. So please watch out for that and what our next topic will be. So thank you again, Dr. Travis, for very informative information and presentation. So appreciate it. Again, this is being recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and You can travel over there if you ever want to send this information to anybody that you know. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Travis. Appreciate your participation. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We appreciate you for signing up and showing up today. So everybody have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you back next month.